Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Friday. It's Daryl here. It's bright and freaking early, man. You know it. It's 3:30 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay, this video is going to be a little, I feel different doing this video today. I've done two, maybe three other videos about Aaron Carter. And with each one, I learned something new. And I thought long and hard how I want to start this video. And I want to talk about the reason why I'm doing this video. I want to make that perfectly clear before I even get into this. So I came across this story this morning about Aaron Carter, more about his mother, Jane Carter. And she just recently released on Facebook pictures of the bathroom scene where Aaron was found on November 5th, 2022 at age 34 years old. And I did a video back a couple months ago, not even a month, or about a month ago, beginning of this year, where Jane, his mother, and his girlfriend talked about somebody owing him money, and they had a strong suspicion on how he passed. And I came across this story this morning, and I hadn't, as soon as I saw it, my heart drops. Because this guy reminds me of myself. This is why I'm doing this video. I'm a 57-year-old man, but I'm a recovering addict. I've been clean and sober since October 23rd, 2006. I got over 16 years clean and sober. I was a opiate and cocaine addict. Opiates were my drug of choice. And like I said, I came across this story this morning. And when I've talked about Aaron before, I see myself. Up until I was 40 years old, I was using them all through my 30s. And as I looked at these pictures, so this morning I see this story about Aaron Carter's mother. Now she says she suspects something else. And she posts these pictures of the bathroom after Aaron was found. And honestly, I'll talk about this, but the first thing I thought about was the stages of grief. Because just a month ago, she was suspecting something else. When I see Aaron Carter, he's 22. He was 22 years younger than me when he passed. But like I said, all through my 30s, I used, and this guy, I call him a kid because I'm 22 years older than him, or 23 now. But he reminds me of myself. I see myself. I remember when I looked at these bathroom photos, I remember stuff about myself, stuff I did, stuff I went through. And even this story reminded me, this is why I'm doing the video. And it's just a coincidence. People that watch my channel know that on Fridays, I usually do my videos a little late because I'm watching the show Intervention. So this morning, the show Intervention's on. I come across this story, and my heart's pounding right now. My adrenaline is on 10 because it's not triggers, but it just reminds me of my past so much. I almost get emotional talking about this. I'm not doing this because I'm not ranking. I'm not trying to bust on Aaron Carter. I'm not trying to say it's this or it's that. He passed away. And either way, it's a loss. It's sad. Regardless, if it happened this way or if it happened this way. But the more I read the story, it reminded me of my past. Once I got into recovery, I went to NA meetings, and I was in this big one particular one I went to every week at Waterbury Hospital in Connecticut, and there was about 50 people. And as we went around the room, I realized we were all so much alike. Different ages, different colors, different man, woman, whatever, rich, poor. We all did the same things. We all went through we all had the same stories. We all reacted the same. And when I look at Aaron Carter, that's why I'm making this video. Because this guy could have been me. There but for the grace of God, go I. That's why I'm doing this video. Since I did my first Aaron Carter video, I actually went out and bought an Aaron Carter CD. I know it's his first one. He's a little kid there. Because, like I said, if I'm going to do a video about this guy, here's my usual DVD listening or CD listening. Neil Diamond, the Eagles, pure 70s disco. Yeah, so Aaron Carter isn't what I usually buy, because I wanted to get to know him more after I did the first video on him. And he's, my heart breaks because during my addiction, I was lonely. People used me. And that's what I see with this guy, this kid. I'm gonna call him a kid in this video. Okay, now let me get into this story. Okay, so about a month back, beginning of this year, his mother and his girlfriend came out, and they said that they went through his text messages. They found some messages that he owed somebody money, a dealer, and the phone call was that night, supposedly when he drowned. And the video I just did about a month ago, if you go back, they suspected it was an overdose. Okay, now Jane Carter. Now, like I said, I looked up the stages of grief, the 5 stages of grief, because on top of being a recovering addict, in 2020, I lost my best friend, my girlfriend. And I'm kind of familiar with the stage of grief. I'm stuck in guilt. But you get stuck in these different stages, and that's what I started to think when I read this about his mother. Now, she posted these pictures. I think there's about 5, 6 pictures. The link will be right down below, so you could look at them yourselves. And I warn you, they're graphic, they're disturbing. And she posted these, and in these photos, she says she sees clues that the investigators aren't pursuing the idea that this might be a homicide because of those text messages. So she's still formulating this idea that maybe this was due to at somebody else's hands. Okay, let me talk about this a little bit. When I think about, okay, you look at the pictures, and I'm trying to figure out what she's talking about. And it's the bathtub. The bathtub is very full of water. The bathtub picture is disturbing because there's algae in it and it's green. But Jane Carter is talking specifically about how high the water is in the bathtub. It seems odd to her, like somebody else filled it up to make it appear. I think that's what she's trying to say, that somebody else filled it up. It looks suspicious to her. And I thought about the 2 scenarios. A person addicted to opiates like I was, getting in the bathtub full of hot water, which I did. I remember doing this. I remember having candles. My girlfriend was due home, and I lit candles, and I remember doing this exact thing. And nodding out, because that's a big thing with opiate addiction. Nodding out, and benzos, and after staying up for days, it's a common thing. And, I picture him turning on the hot water, sitting in the tub, it filling up, or just keeping the water hot because the water cools off quick, having the water running, nodding out, and the bathtub fills up and either goes out through the emergency drain and fills right up to the top as he nods out and possibly expires. Or somebody comes in and goes to make a crime scene, make it look like he drowned, and they fill up the bathtub. Now, if they were going to do that, would they fill it all the way up? That's what I'm not a cop, I'm not forensics, but I've been through similar situations. And if so, first, let me say this most of all, because this is the big thing that occurred to me. I've owed dealers money, okay? And supposedly, Aaron owed $800. $800 is nothing to a dealer. I mean, that's like an hour's worth of work. It is nothing. The reason that dealers would make a statement and go after somebody like me or somebody like Aaron for non-payment is to make a statement, to make an example that they can't be taken advantage of. That's part of the business. I'm not proud of the things I did, but I'm familiar with this. And you have to, in order to avoid future trouble, you have to make yourself tough. You have to look like you're not somebody to be screwed with. If you owed $800, it would be about making a statement, right? This is what happens when you don't pay your bills. It wouldn't be like doing away with Aaron and then making it look like a crime scene and setting it all up so the water looks like he drowned. That doesn't make any sense to me. I talked in my past video about owing dealers money and what happened. And I remember a couple specific instances where I got a phone call saying that he was going to come by, this guy I owed money to, and put holes in my house And I promptly paid him very quickly. I remember another incident in a bathroom in a bar where a similar situation. They are not very, when you owe people like this money, they are not shy about making it known. That's the whole point of this. $800 isn't squat. It's not a reason to off somebody, but maintaining their reputation is a reason to do that. That they can't be fooled with, because then everybody's going to take advantage of them, and then you know what happens. It doesn't make any sense. Another thing that occurred to me, I'm going to tell you guys. I haven't told you guys this before. I remember one instance when I first got addicted to a particular opiate. I bought it off of a girl I knew. Her grandmother had just passed away from cancer, terminal cancer, and she had these extremely strong opiates. Bottle, which I bought, and they were insanely strong. And that was the beginning of my opiate addiction, where I got cross-addicted. And I remember standing in my kitchen, and I had taken one of these pills, and I was nodding out, and I was going to light candles, okay? And I had a bathrobe on, and I had my slippers on, like a pair of, not fuzzy slippers, but they weren't furry like girl slippers, but they had like a fur on them. And I almost lit myself on fire that night. And it's not fun. I'm not saying this to be funny. I was standing there and I was fussing with the candle. I had one of those long big lighters, the long ones, and I was nodding out as I was lighting the candle. And I don't know if a piece of the wick broke off, but something lit. I don't know if there's lit wax actually dropped. It hit my slipper, my furry slipper. And I remember nodding out and looking down and seeing my slipper start flaming. I'm on fire. And I kept nodding out. Luckily, once I started to feel the heat. I look down, I see the flame from my foot being on fire. And I keep nodding out. And then I feel the heat on my foot, and I panic, and I wake up, and I'm in the kitchen. So I get a glass of water and pour it on my foot to put myself out. I'm not saying this to be funny. But if you understand what I'm saying about this particular incident, this is what I thought of when I looked at the bathtub. This kind of thing happens when when you're addicted. It does. I remember this. Like I said, I'm not saying this to be funny. I'm not saying this to bust Aaron's butt. I'm not saying this to bust on his mother, Jane Carter. Jane Carter. But it makes sense to me that he drowned more than a homicide. Some of the other pictures are disturbing. When you pass away, from what I understand, you tend to lose control of your bodily functions. I think that accounts for some of these pictures. That's all I'm going to say about that. They're disturbing pictures. Like I said, I'm going to post the 5 stages of grief down below. Let me say this too. If it wasn't for methadone maintenance, I would not be here today. There's too much shame, and there's not enough recovery efforts in this country. It's hard to get a bed. It's hard to get into treatment. There's a stigma attached to Suboxone and methadone. Still, it saved my life. Recovery is possible. I am sitting here because of this. These are just my thoughts. My heart goes out to Aaron Carter's family. He was a great kid. I'm going to call him a kid, a great guy. He was talented, and it's a big loss to everybody else. And I wish he had gotten into recovery. You guys have a good Friday.